Donald Trump is still a few weeks away from officially becoming president, but let's be honest, he's basically the president already. Earlier this month, he wrote on Truth Social, which is of course his platform, if the hostages are not released prior to January 2025, the date that I proudly assume office as President of the United States, there will be all hell to pay in the Middle East and for those in charge who perpetrated these atrocities against humanity. Well, the international news group AFP are reporting that diplomatic sources have told them that since this post, Hamas have been pushing for a ceasefire and are hoping to reach a deal by the end of the year. Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gada now. I mean, Kosha, you barely see anything of Biden these days. It would seem that Trump's out there doing the job of president even though he hasn't been inaugurated.
It is a safe assumption to make, Caleb, for sure. I think Mar-a-Lago is the place to be, and you've had all sorts of world leaders and everybody from Mark Zuckerberg to Justin Trudeau and Benjamin Netanyahu and others go through there. So he is the de facto president, more so than a typical president-elect would be. Look, I think there's other structural changes that have also happened in recent weeks leading to this potential good deal coming out of the hostage situation with Syria and just the extra uncertainty it's injecting into the region, with Hezbollah being weakened in Lebanon. So I'm sure all of that is playing a factor as well. But U.S. leadership always is a key factor on the chessboard, and the leadership looks like night and day with Trump now coming in short order here versus Biden, or even if it had been Harris.
Well, exactly, and I think leadership is the key word here, right? I mean, you know, even though he isn't president and he hasn't actually done any deals yet, he's been on the phone to people, and just by the fact that he is there and he will be president, I think it shifts the way the world operates, because people are starting to think, well, if Donald Trump is going to be president again, we've got to start working in a way that we can deal with him, and that makes people make decisions that they wouldn't have made under Joe Biden, such as potentially looking at a ceasefire.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this was a very high contrast election on a whole host of policy issues, domestic and international, because the entire platform, as well as their leadership style, back to, that word, is so different, so night and day. And here too, the world does know a little bit about Trump's style this time around, since he was in office for 4 years before, and they do know that he is somebody who's very strong. He is actually quite strategic. He's quite unpredictable. That's actually part of his strategy. He's been very open to that. And that does make some of these actors a little bit back on their heels, because, they don't know what he's capable of, but he is capable of making some pretty big moves versus the other team likely would not have.
Well, let's talk about the current president, Joe Biden. Strange it feels to say that, current president in name only, basically, but he's broken his silence on these strange drones that have been flying above the United States. This story's been going on for a few days now. This is what he had to say.
Nothing nefarious, apparently, but they're checking it all out. There's a lot of drones authorized up there. I think one started and they all got it. Everybody's wanting to get in the deal. But we're following it closely.
Nothing nefarious, apparently. I mean, way to fill people with confidence.
Confidence is dropping like a stone every day on this issue, Caleb. It's another day, more and more drone sightings and no answers. And you had that where it's part of this very bizarre and very poorly executed comms strategy by the sprawling U.S. government, where different agencies have been contradicting each other. They wheeled Biden out to give that statement, and it wasn't even delivered correctly, as you mentioned. There was a rare joint statement that came out as well in the last 24 hours by the DOD, which again is the group that has $800 billion in a budget, and they failed the last 7 audits, so I don't think people trust them. The DHS, which has let 11 million illegals into the border, and 500,000 children are missing, and by the way, they oversee the Secret Service, which botched the protection of Trump, and the FBI, who has not exactly covered itself in glory either. So these people are coming out with these statements. Nobody trusts them. Trump came out with a statement, actually, back to that point of president-elect or de facto president, saying, everybody knows, the U.S. government knows exactly what's going on. For some reason, they're not telling us, and that injected even more innuendo into this bizarre mystery.
Well, what do you reckon they are? Come on, give me your theory, Kosha.
I wish I knew. Look, it's on a spectrum from hobbyists and commercial theories, which I don't think is it, to foreign adversaries, which they're saying is unlikely as well. I think the money is that it is the U.S. government. Some part of the U.S. government does know what it is, and they have some reason for not telling us, and then that runs a gamut of, is it a chemical spill? Is there radioactive material? Are they training for warfare? Because drones are going to be the future of warfare as some training exercise. And why is that? Is there some hot war, very imminent that they need to do this? All sorts of things. But I'm just purely speculating. I know nothing more than the next person.
Well, at least they're not nefarious, apparently. And speaking of Biden, aides are finally admitting the truth that, we've all been able to see for years. The New York Times reports today that aides are telling them, quote, "He looks a little older and a little slower with each passing day. It's hard to imagine that he seriously thought he could do the world's most stressful job for another 4 years." I could have told you that 4 years ago.
Yes, you and everybody with two eyes, but we were told not to believe our lying eyes. These are Johnny-come-latelys. It's so easy to come out now and say this stuff when there's no consequence to saying it. It would have made much more of an impact, especially to Democrat voters who were deprived of a primary process and the ability to actually have some very talented people from the Democrat Party run in the primary. That would have been a better time to raise this, but they didn't when there was personal risk or career risk. They're doing it now. I will quickly say, though, Caleb, though he is out of it, clearly, as everyone can see, his presidency or the people handling him or the cabinet are not going quietly, and they've done, all these judgeship appointments. He's vetoed a couple of bills. He did the clemency spree, the highest ever in history. So there's a lot of action happening, even if Biden's personally maybe not aware of all of it.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, the worst thing about all this, we're sitting here having a laugh about it, is that they've known this for so long while he has been president, and they were going to give him another shot until he buggered up that debate. They would have willingly let him, in the state he is in, have another go, which is just unforgivable. Kosha Gada, thank you so much for your time.